Day.
Welcome in to
Taco
Morning
Tuesday.
Invest. It is
Taco Tuesday, dudes.
Good to see everybody coming up on the show today. We're going to be talking President Biden meeting with Vladimir Putin in about an hour or so. And as we inch closer to a war in that region, we're going to hear from an expert, by the way, who is one of the leading authorities on Ukraine. He's written multiple books on it. He's not given to hyperbole. And he thinks we're slipping towards war, and that's really going to be the only option for Ukraine. So, yeah, we've got that to look forward to.
Tesla stock is down after Elon Musk took a big duty on the stimulus bill, says that we shouldn't do it. And people are calling him out for saying what he really thinks. Yeah. Nobody likes it when that guy talks his mind.
Yeah, and we're going to show you the next round of what you're spending money on, your taxpayer dollars on, as it relates to the war effort. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. I should remind you, if you're new here, we do this show every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and all you need to do is just subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, just hit subscribe, and then you can chat along with us in the chat. We've got a great group of people who join us here. We have thousands of people who join us here every morning, and you can chat along with us. And we have the chat right here on the screen during the show, so we're constantly watching what you guys are saying about the stories. Get your immediate feedback. You can call BS on stuff that you see. We will put it right here on the old screen.
So as we wait for YouTube to send out its notices and our audience to get their coffee, get themselves situated, do what you need to do, you have time if you have to go to the bathroom. But we will discuss some things from the newsletter before we get to the hard news. David, I'm so curious on your thoughts on the story about YouTube's creators report. Did you happen to read that? If you didn't, I will summarize for you.
Yeah, no, I have not read it yet, but please summarize.
Okay, so the story goes, let me just pull up my notes then.
Yeah, YouTube posted on their blog overnight about copyright claims.
So they released a new report called the Copyright Transparency Report that shows that 60% of creators who challenge their content claims when a video gets flagged, here's the story, a video might get flagged for a copyright violation, and they say that 2.2 million last year were bogus. They just sort of got flagged by the algorithm. YouTube didn't mean it, and they turned it over. So they're saying that's less than 1%, less than 0.1% of the 729 million videos that they took down for copyright. So they think that's a pretty good number.
Think aren't bogus.
Right. And so they're saying that those 2.2 million were overturned. So they admit that those 2.2 million were a mistake, but they do not admit any others were a mistake. And they also don't say they'll make any changes to the submission form when you want to challenge a claim. So the reason, David and we care about it is because we're YouTube creators, and YouTube seems to punish people in ways that people don't understand, right? So we're not here to spread misinformation. We're not here to use other people's copyright. But sometimes when you get flagged, you're like, what did I do wrong? How can I change that? How can I make sure that I stay on the platform because I have an audience I love? But it's not right if there are certain things, if they're harming people that are just trying to get information out there in a way that's unfair.
That's where I have the problem, because we got suspended on this channel for 7 days, which means no income, no nothing for 7 days. And after 3 of those, you can actually lose the channel. And the thing is, we were just using medical terms. So it's we're one of the ones that were caught in a thing that should not have been taken down, but was. Even
but that was not copyright. This is specifically about copyright, though. They
still don't explain what the issue is half the time. When you get, with copyright, at least they'll tell you this piece of content. They give you a time marker.
Yeah.
They'll say between 1 minute and 1 minute and 12 seconds, you used a clip of whatever ET, and that's what caused the issue.
Yeah.
Right, but a lot of times you can just cut that out. I think this. I don't know that they necessarily. I want to read it, because if they're talking about that, a lot of people can go in, remove that piece of. Are they counting themselves as correct if people go in and remove that piece of content and then they re-upload it or whatever?
I think so. They're saying that 60% of the claims, when challenged, were successful for the artist.
Because honestly, I'm not as worried about copyright claims as I am community guideline strikes.
Right.
That are the ones stifling conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that I have the most trouble with because, you don't know what you're allowed to say, even though they tell you.
It's not like after they suspended, they're like, well, you said this, this, and this at this line. No, it's just like you said something that we don't agree with. You're down.
Right. Yeah. And so we don't agree with you. I mean, I even watched something on Breaking Points the other day where I think Sagar said something. He's like, I know I'm going to be demonetized for mentioning this. And he's like, but we got to cover the story anyway. It's like we covered a story the other day on the while you were out on Friday. I covered the tennis story, the Chinese tennis star. And that video got demonetized because I talked about the claims that she made against the vice premier. Like, these are things that happen to her, right? CNN can do it on their channel,
right?
But when we talk about it, then we get blasted for it, and we have,
That's the main point, is the double standard. Because like you have somebody like Rachel Maddow that spewed for 3 years Russiagate conspiracy theory, like no evidence or proof whatsoever, and YouTube promotes her, yet we talk about medical terms or something like that, and we get suspended. And we're not, and like I said, I went back and watched. So, for instance, the video that I got suspended for playing on my channel, a bunch of news channels still were up that played the exact same video that I did, but I got suspended.
Yeah, and then you were able to successfully get it taken care of.
Not the first one. Not the first one.
Yeah, and we're going to have a discussion a little bit later here on the show today about the media. And I kind of want to put forth this idea maybe here at the top, and we'll have a deeper discussion about it later as we get to the story on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial that we're going to talk about in a little bit, is what is the mainstream media? Like, anyway, like when people want to say like, oh, mainstream media has carte blanche, CNN has carte blanche. I'm going to show you some numbers this morning that are going to startle you because people aren't watching these cable channels anymore. I mean, the numbers are literally jaw-dropping, the new numbers out this morning their average audience is 70 years old. Like, they're no one, like for CNN and Fox.
Well, those are people, elderly people are people.
No, but I'm saying is they're not getting a younger audience.
Yeah.
They're not attracting new people. So their audience is literally aging out. And the numbers are just amazing. The nightly show watching compared to what we do on YouTube is not even close.
Yeah.
Well, and so those are the people that are lobbying YouTube to get the independents silenced because they're scared.
Yeah, exactly. So they have the money, they have the big advertiser dollars, but no one's watching them. So it's a weird, Anyway, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. But all right, let's start the show, shall we? So we were a few minutes late. We were getting audio dialed in because we got our new audio interface here, and plus.
We're not late. This is when we normally get started, and we're doing our fluff, our talking.
We started 10 till.
We started 10 of, but
we started at 10 till, didn't we?
No.
Where the heck have I been?
I don't know, but we were wondering where you were because it was 3 minutes to go. We're like, "Where's Natalie?" David's like, "Is Natalie joining us on the show?"
I've been here the whole time. Yes, I have.
No. All right, let's get started, shall we? All right. Welcome in, everyone, to the show. It is Tuesday, December 7th here on Morning Invest. Coming up on today's show, President Biden meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia in just a few short minutes. We've got an early look at what he plans to threaten Putin with. Sanctions and soul-crushing economic sanctions. Will we be heading to war? That is the big question that Jen Psaki is going to be asked at press conferences, so we'll play that for you this morning.
And Elon Musk says we should take the Build Back Better bill and throw it in the trash. Tesla stock was down on that news, but he made some points that are at least worth talking about. So we are going to, in fact, talk about it.
And we're also going to talk about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. There's a meme floating around that the mainstream media is largely ignoring this trial. Is that correct? Is the mainstream media, saying, hey, well, we'd rather cover the Kyle Rittenhouse story, but we don't really care about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial because, well, maybe there's a lot of dangerous things that would come out against people like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton. Is that truthful? We'll get to the bottom of it on today's show. All that and more as we get uncomfortable on Morning Invest starts right now.
All right, everyone, welcome in. It's time to discuss news. We're going to try and do it in a way that does not make you sad. We don't make any promises. We just choose the most popular stories and try and keep you educated, but also positive.
Yes, I would stories, they choose us.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't even
true.
say we'd choose the most popular. I think we'd choose the ones that I think need our context here.
Yes, that's more true.
Because I think if you pay attention to the mainstream media's spin on what's happening with Russia specifically and a potential war with Russia, as President Biden is set to meet with Vladimir Putin in about 90 minutes, all talk is that we're going to be tough in the United States. We're going to be tough, and they better back down because they are amassing their troops along their border and they are in the wrong, right? That's what you hear in Western media. But I think we need to challenge that assumption this morning because we need to ask ourselves, what do the experts know about Russia? What exactly does Russia want? And we're going to unpack that a little bit this morning. But first, just to lay out the news for you a little bit, President Biden, again, going to meet... Why is my laptop not plugged in? President Biden is set to meet with Vladimir Putin over a Zoom call in just about 90 minutes or so, about 10:30 this morning. They're going to be meeting. And among the talking points that we already got sort of a preview of, first of all, why do they release this stuff ahead of time? Like the White House released ahead of time, they're like, here's what I'm going to tell him. So they floated out to the media ahead of actually what he's going to tell him.
Well, maybe because if he forgets or he doesn't say it properly, we know he had a good plan.
Yeah,
right?
But he just didn't articulate it enough. Well,
It's
because
possible.
no reporters are going to be in the room, right? Reporters won't be in the room. They won't be allowed to be in there to ask questions. So they're going to just have to rely on what we think we know about this. Anyway, so what he is expected to say is that we are going to have basically soul-crushing sanctions
from hell, he's been calling it.
Yeah, sanctions from hell. It's going to crush the Russian government and the Russian economy if you don't remove these troops from the Ukrainian border.
Now, meanwhile, Russia wants a promise from the United States that Ukraine will not join NATO like some of the other neighboring countries have. In 2004, some surrounding nations began to join NATO, and Vladimir Putin and the Russian government doesn't like it. They don't want this democratic creep. They feel like they do not need that at their borders. And he is asking for NATO leaders and specifically Joe Biden to commit to leaving Ukraine out. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, has says we do not accept red lines. That's not really for him to ask at all. We're going to do whatever the bleep we want. But if Russia continues to ask for these ultimatums, then we will respond in kind.
So what's the truth here in all of this? I mean, this is the question, right?
You just went, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's Kennedy when you need him?
Yeah, we're going to go to war because we want to push an extension of this military-industrial complex. Make no mistake about it. Like think about NATO, right? Like we think it's a force for good, or at least that's the propaganda, right?
Yeah.
NATO is a force for good. When off the coast of the Iberian Peninsula, the force for good is constantly doing military exercises. They're constantly doing bombing runs and tests, and ships are getting together, and they're doing all sorts of big training and military exercises. Is NATO on a regular basis. And NATO is now going to expand in a post-World War II era its military presence by adding in an additional ally that only sets then to keep Russia out, right? We're basically saying you can't be a part of this club. You can't be a part of this military club because we're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're watching you, China, and we're watching you, Russia.
Cryptologija in the chat says, can we get into that Zoom call? I mean, Russia has some of the best hackers.
Yeah.
Can you open a link to that, please?
Think about World War II when our efforts were more spent on building bases to intimidate Russia than liberating the Jews. Like that was our main focus, and we're still there. Like after World War II, we stayed, and we still have things pointing at Russia all along the border.
Right.
So we've been trying to intimidate them since then.
Right. I was thinking today, because today is Pearl Harbor Day. It's the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And that served to unite the country around support about getting into the war, right? Mm-hmm. And back then, people took it from face value because there was a high trust of government that this happened, we now need to get involved, whereas before we didn't. And I thought about, what if that happened today? We would not have taken it at face value like that. Now we'd be like, whoa, is that really happening? Did this really,
Well, I guess we all even jumped in on this when we heard about the submarine that hit an object in the South China Sea a few
Right.
months ago. Remember that? A nuclear submarine with the best technology in the world just hit a giant object.
Just like the Gulf of Tonkin.
Right. Like, what was that we hit? So now we need to have a bigger presence in the South China Sea just to make sure that we don't hit other objects. And now,
we bumped an eel.
right? Yeah, we hit we hit a whale. That's what it was that caused that kind of damage. Anyway, I mean, I just want to unpack this Russia side of this equation, because in the West, we just don't get why they would want to put 175,000 troops along the border. Now, I'm not defending Russia. I'm just showing you that we don't hear this in the Western media at all. You're not going to see this on CNN. You're not going to see this on Fox. They are the bad guy.
Is you see
Russia
it on
is the bad
RT.
guy. Yeah, you'll see it on the Russia RT. I mean, and because I think their whole motto is like "open your eyes," right, or question
and they cover
everything.
it more. They cover it more than our own media. They're telling they're negatively talking about Russia on their own network.
So Russia wants to make sure that we have a pledge that NATO will stop expanding east towards Russia. They do not want the Western military alliance right at their doorstep, like right next door, literally building now, adding Ukraine into this massive military industrial complex.
But they also can't make decisions for their neighbors. They can want what they want, right? And we can hear them, but you don't decide what religion your neighbors are.
Only we can do that.
Right. We decide what religion our neighbors are.
So big question, though, are we going to war? And Aaron Mate, who's an excellent journalist, one of maybe the few real journalists out there, he has a show called Pushback, and he had a guest on, Richard Sakwa, who's a professor of Russian and European politics at the University of Kent. He has a new book, out, not new, called Frontline Ukraine, Crisis in the Borderlands. And he has another new book out called Deception, Russiagate and the New Cold War. And Aaron specifically asked him, hey, the Washington Post is saying, like, we're heading towards war here. Do you agree with that? You are certainly a clear-headed analyzer of all of this. What do you think? And here's what he had to say about that. Yes, here it is.
The former U.S. ambassador to Russia, and Alexei Honcharuk, a former Ukrainian prime minister under the current Ukrainian president Zelensky. They write this: since 1939, the specter of an all-out conventional war in Europe between two major militaries has never been greater. Would you agree with that?
I would, even though I don't agree how they got to that point in the argument. The actual substance is that I actually do think that we are closer to war. Well, certainly I don't know about 1939, but since 1945, in terms of a Cold War. I argue that indeed we are in a second Cold War, accompanied by propaganda, disinformation, the demonization of the opponent. Plus, of course, the militarization of Europe. We have a new Iron Curtain now, no longer from Stettin in the north to Trieste in the south, but from all the way down to Mariupol in Ukraine. So yes, we do. We are closer, and the language and the vitriol and the distrust, there's just no substantive basis for the powers, Russia, the United States, and its European allies to move beyond this impasse. And so, and of course, then we have a volatile situation, a front line in Ukraine, which could explode at any moment because, domestic politics, as always, even the first Cold War, often the tail wags the dog. Neither Russia nor the United States, of course, want conflict, but these things happen. We saw the sleepwalking into 1914, and we have military exercises. We have U.S. planes. I mean, I think that this one study showed that nearly 2,000 near military misses have taken place since 2014. One day, planes will collide, ships will collide, something will happen, and we're off.
And we're off.
Well, and think about it. Like, think about every negative thing that you hear that happens in the media. The elections, Hillary Clinton lost, all this other stuff. Why? Russia. Why does this happen? Russia. Like, think for how many years we have been hearing that Russia is the reason for all of our woes in this country.
Yeah, I remember back when I was anchoring the news in Fox, in Manhattan, we had on a New York NYPD detective, and he came on from their cyber crimes unit, and he said, everything we've got, it comes out of Russia. Everything we deal with comes out of Russia, Russia, over and over and over again.
The
Russia.
military-industrial complex has wanted Russia think of that. If it wasn't for Kennedy, we already would be there.
So he talked about misinformation on both sides, right? And so what do you think? I have no idea. I don't read Russian. What do you think is the Russian line against America right now?
Well, I think just look at what they're saying. I mean, on their face, they do not want. They see NATO as a massive military-industrial complex with multiple military allies on their doorstep, and they see it as a threat to their country. I mean, I think that's
not just to their way of being, but to their actual safety, you think?
I mean, wouldn't we feel that way? I guess the question is, think about it in the reverse, right? Would we feel the same way? Would we feel
if there were troops on the Canadian border and the Canadian border was then converting to...
Yeah, we had 175,000 troops along the Canadian border that were ready to perhaps jump.
But that is the true use of our military. Our true use of our military is defend our own borders, right?
Right.
We wouldn't have to call in our allies to come help us do that. If we had our military here like it's supposed to be and not scattered out all over the world, we could defend our own borders. And that's the role of our military only. We're not supposed to be in all these other. It's unconstitutional for us to be over there.
Yeah, and it was amazing when we had all these troubles at home and we had to send the National Guard at the last minute because we didn't have enough domestic troops on the ready to deal with certain issues across the country.
They couldn't even stop Trump supporters from going in the Capitol building.
Right, because we didn't have the at-home domestic. But on the Russian side, I think he lays it out interestingly. I think he, as Richard Sacco points out, there's all of this demonization of Russia and all of this misinformation about there being internal, like that somehow that Putin would need this war to coalesce his coalition at home, and nothing could be further from the truth. Like, he doesn't need this war. He doesn't need a war in Ukraine in order to consolidate power at home.
He already extended his term limits last year.
Right, but that's been floating around in Western media, this idea that he needs this to shore up power and
because of the Alexei Navalny imprisonment, do you think?
Even that. I mean, yes, you could even, like, rounding up dissidents, rounding up individuals. I mean, he's got that power. And it is certainly, this country is moving more towards authoritarianism. That is the line from the West. How true is it? If you're if you're being told what you can and cannot say on television, you're having state media tweaked and removed, you're having officials who speak out against the government, put in prison or hidden, then yeah. But as far as him needing to consolidate power by starting a war, makes no sense, doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just security. I think that's what, if you want to look at it on its face, I think that's what they're saying. That, hey, we don't want this. We don't want Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, which is an extension of the United States. And that's really what it is.
All the things you just mentioned, like, what really is different that's going on here?
What do you mean?
Yeah, you're right about that.
All the stuff you listed, the media, like, we're being censored more and more, and we can't have a voice and talk about certain things, and there's obviously things are being hidden from us. So it's like it's encroaching here. It's becoming authoritarian.
Francis brings up a great point in the chat. Says, I sort of agree with Clayton. America has the Monroe Doctrine for a region, and Russia has the right also, but Russia also wants Ukraine, which is not their right. So I guess invasion and annexing, like they did in the Crimea, etc., would not be favorable. And of course, we have mineral rights and we have oil rights and everything else that we think we have by folding Ukraine into NATO, and then us having that country become part of our territory. We already send planes and drones and billions of dollars in money to the Ukrainian army. Like, all of those guns they have, where do you think they came from? As Richard Sacco points out, we have sent them massive amounts of armament already, the Ukrainian government. So I don't know. It seems like we're getting closer and closer to war here, because if the White House is basically saying this is going to be NATO and Vladimir Putin is saying no way, then what else is next but war? But again, President Biden meeting with
not
President
our business.
Putin in about 90 minutes.
Right, but because you have that attitude, David, a lot of people don't, right? So Clayton asked the question earlier, why does the White House release talking points? Why are we getting this information, right? Because they want to rally us to support if there is, in fact, a war. And I think that there's a lot of reason to believe that the government does want war. And I think it's worth remembering that war affects us all disproportionately. And specifically now, I know you're not the biggest fan of Rachel Maddow, but in her first book about war, she makes the point that war is continually removed from us so that it does not hurt the average person. Why? Because the troops are taken from a lower socioeconomic population, right? So a lot of the sort of middle upper classes, they don't send their kids to war quite as often.
When you mean removed from, you mean kept at arm's length.
Like it doesn't hurt us the way it once did. Like everybody had a troop or a soldier in their family. A lot of people felt the loss of war, and it's sort of insulated now from certain classes.
Now it's only poor people.
Yeah,
exactly
that's
right.
what she means in the
So. The lower classes are not insulated. They do send their kids to war a lot of times because they don't have other resources for education and career. But more privileged people do not. And so when it feels like, oh, there's going to be a war, that sucks, but nobody I know will be sent or die, it's easier to sort of sign off on the government's propaganda about needing war when it's a little bit more arm's distance from you. I mean, this is...
Yeah, it's kept
I don't
away.
mean to get theoretical, but this
It's
is
true.
what John Baudrillard warned about in The Gulf War Did Not Exist, is that wars now are these like postmodern, like it's sanctions, I don't know, you can't touch it, you can't see it, I'll just sort of get involved emotionally, but it doesn't hurt me very much. It does.
And
look at the inflation that we have, look at the budget, look at our economy. It does.
Yeah, and look at CNN, which makes billions of dollars, and all of these media corporations make so much money off of war. So they want it. Of course they want it. And they want to beat the drum of this.
It floored me that our drone program didn't slow down or anything during a pandemic. Like during the pandemic, we, if anything, increased our drone strikes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
We're going to talk about drones a little later, or we can talk about them now.
No, we'll talk about it in a second.
Okay.
Okay. Cryptologia sent in a $4 super chat. Thank you so much. Says I'm originally from Serbia, and I was 14 when the Force for Good that stand united in NATO bombed Serbia, destroying hospitals, schools, TV stations. Yeah, that Force for Good, exactly. The Force for Good in NATO. It's coming for you. So Jen Psaki was asked really quickly here about what we can expect. Should Americans prepare for war? And here's what she had to say.
A range of topics in the U.S. and Russia relationship, including strategic stability, cyber, and regional issues. But you can certainly expect that our concerns about the military activities on the border will be a prominent part of the discussion. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Should Americans be prepared for the likelihood to see American forces on the ground in the region in the event that Russia does invade?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president's conversations with his transatlantic partners, which is going to happen later this afternoon, and we'll provide you a list of who will be participating in that call as soon as those scheduling details are finalized. But I would say that our objective here, Cecilia, is conveying diplomatically that this is the moment for Russia to pull back their military buildup at the border, that diplomacy is the right path forward here, but that we are going to continue to coordinate closely with our partners, our transatlantic partners, on a range of economic sanctions and steps that couldn't be taken should President Putin decide to move forward.
So
what was all that? Just
big word salad, but
right.
But at the end of the day,
all we ever get from them.
Yeah, we get these word salads. But no, I mean, would it not have been encouraging to have the press secretary of the White House say, absolutely not. There's nothing that the president wants less than to have American soldiers on the boots on the ground inside the Ukraine. Are you kidding me?
In the winter?
In the winter? Like, we're going to start.
Omicron?
But it's like, she's like, I'm not going to get ahead of what the president talks about on a Zoom call today, but
we're going to wait and see on that.
We're going to wait and see. So it could be a possibility. So again, we'll have an update for you tomorrow on the show. We'll be watching it closely, but we already got a preview of what he's telling him, which is, look, you get these troops out of here, Mr. Putin, or we are going to have soul-crushing sanctions on your country. Get these troops back home. And to which Putin's going to say, okay, I call your bluff.
We would like to cover it live, but we remind you it is a private Zoom call, and we were not given the link, so we will have to report to you tomorrow.
And the
Otherwise,
sad thing
we'd
is-
stay on like the Blue Ocean or whatever launch.
Unfortunately, too, we have a military-industrial complex that, like no president since Kennedy has stood up against, so that cooler heads prevail. Make no mistake that the military-industrial complex wants this war worse more than anything. So you're going to see, like, if you just pay attention to what they're actually saying, and her vagueness is by design. She's being vague because they don't want this. Like maybe Biden himself personally doesn't want it, but like look what happened to Kennedy when he fought anything that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it's like this wheel is turning, and there's not anyone who can stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, she's going to be vague because she doesn't want to be held to something. So let us know in the comments what you think about all of this. We've got more news to get to today on the show. But first, we're going to talk about the stimulus in a moment and, a race against the clock here on whether or not this Build Back Better stimulus and checks for families and all of those things are going to go out before the end of the year. And now Elon Musk is weighing in on the whole thing. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Public because, it's very difficult and confusing to start investing. And it can seem like there are so many barriers to getting started, especially with cryptocurrency. Over on public.com, though, you can start small with slices of shares. You can invest in what you believe in any amount. You can exchange, like if you want to buy like a particular big stock that normally would cost like a couple $1,000s, you can just buy $5 of it. You don't need to buy the full share. That's the beauty of Public. You can exchange ideas and insights with a community of investors built on your portfolio. You can build on your portfolio with confidence right there. You can follow me over on Public. That's where I do some of my long-term trading in my portfolio. And I love their app because it's super clean and easy to navigate. Plus, it works like a social network in a way. So you can follow investors that you believe in. And when they post that they bought a stock or sold a stock, you can follow along. And maybe if you like why they did it, you could do it yourself, right? You can connect with investors from all walks of life to learn new ideas and gain confidence. They don't participate in any of that payment for order flow stuff, which is a common practice where brokerages sell your trades to third parties. They don't do that. Instead, public.com routes your trades to exchanges directly, so there's no middleman. I love how Public works. Clean app, beautiful way to get started investing. You can start with as little as $1 and get a free slice of stock up to $50 when you join public.com today. So the website URL is on your screen. In order to get that slice of stock up to $50, you need to use that link that's on the screen right there. So you go to public.com/morning to download the app and sign up using the code MORNING. That's public.com/morning and use the code MORNING. Valid for U.S. residents 18 years and older, subject to account approval. See public.com/disclosures. This is not investment advice. It is not investment advice, I tell you. Our thanks to Public.
Well, Elon Musk is giving investment advice to the government, and that is do not proceed with the Build Back Better law. Musk was a keynote speaker at a Wall Street Journal conference yesterday, and he spoke on a range of topics, but one of which was the Build Back Better law. And he spoke about how specifically the United States has too large of a deficit. We can't afford all of this spending, and that all social spending should be thrown in the trash. Now, of course, that's easy for him to say, right? He doesn't need a stimulus. He doesn't need help paying his bills. But he does point out that the Build Back Better law is written to help one group of businesses and not another. Specifically, it offers a $12,500 tax credit for anyone who buys an electric vehicle that was made by a U.S. union. And so Tesla, which has parts made offshore, would not qualify for this large of a tax credit. And he's saying, look, you just kind of picked your buddies for this kind of thing. The whole law is written like that. We should get rid of it. and come back when we have a real plan to make a budget.
Yeah, well, Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal, our mutual friend Joanna Stern, she's a great writer. She did the interview with Elon Musk from the Wall Street Journal, and one of the first things she asked, she said, if President Biden was going to get on the phone with you and call you to ask you about this infrastructure stimulus package, and he laughed and he said, first of all, he's not going to call me. That's never going to happen. And the reason he's laughing and joking about it is because when President Biden invited all of those EV manufacturers to the White House to talk about building an electronic vehicle infrastructure in the United States, the largest electronic vehicle manufacturer in the world in Tesla wasn't invited. 2/3 of all cars, electronic cars in the United States are Teslas. I don't know if I didn't know that until seeing this data. So almost every electric vehicle in the United States comes from Tesla, and they weren't even invited to the White House. So Joe Biden kept them out. So anyway, she asked him this question specifically about this Build Back Better plan, and he just said, it's just way too expensive.
Okay.
It might be better. Honestly, it might be better if the bill doesn't pass, because we've spent so much money. It's like the federal budget deficit is insane. It's like $3 trillion. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion. Federal revenue is $4 trillion. That's a $3 trillion difference in. If this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. So. I don't know if we should be adding to that loss. That seems pretty crazy. Something's got to give. You can't just spend $3 trillion more than you earn every year and expect, don't expect something bad to happen. I think, this is not good.
Well, Mitch McConnell's actually saying.
In fact, if I may elaborate on that, the deficit is more than $3 trillion when you look at the future obligations. So it's $7 trillion of current expenditures, but it's much more than that if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going.
Well, Mitch McConnell.
Just can't keep going.
What does she rebut with that? Mitch McConnell says what?
Well, she rebuts with that. She says Mitch McConnell agrees with you, and then he cut her off. But he went on to say, though, specifically to talk about these vehicle tax credits. He's like, look, I think this is the headline making moment of this speech, which is, why do we have any of these subsidies? He's like, I think we should get rid of the subsidies for oil and gas.
Yes.
I think we should get rid of subsidies for electric vehicle manufacturers as well. And he's like, by the way, 2 years ago, our subsidy ended. He's like, so all of the sales from Teslas that we've had over the past few years haven't had any of these incentives. We haven't received any tax credits for making these cars. Maybe some of the smaller manufacturers do. He's like, but ours dried up 2 years ago and we don't need it. But he says, I think we should get rid of all of it. And I think that's an interesting point for him to say. And by the way, remember that Tesla would benefit tremendously from this Build Back Better plan. With all of these electric charging stations that Biden wants to implement, they would make billions of dollars, which may explain why Tesla's stock collapsed yesterday. Listen.
But just going back to that infrastructure bill for a second, because sometimes the criticism of Tesla is like, hey, Tesla gets all these subsidies. But it's worth noting that for the vehicle purchase tax credit, the $7,500, Tesla stopped getting that like 2 years ago. So whereas everyone else, I think, except for GM, still gets the $7,500 tax credit. So all of our sales this year and I think last year had nothing to do with the tax credit because we were no longer eligible because we'd made so many electric cars. Tesla's made roughly 2/3 of all the electric cars in the United States. I'm not sure if most people are aware of that. So Tesla's made basically twice as many electric vehicles as the rest of industry combined. And we don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation.
What
Sorry.
about the support though for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill and no.
No, I mean, do we need support for gas stations? We don't. So there's no need for this for support for a charging network. I would delete it. Delete.
delete. No charging network. We don't need support. We don't need the government putting their foot in. further, he was asked sort of like, well, what should the government's involvement be with businesses? And he's like, every year we add more and more regulation, and regulations never sunset. Very rarely do we put on like a sunset time for regulations. Instead, they just add on until the country that you're doing business in is so inhospitable that you pack up your business and you either move to another state or you move to another country altogether.
It's amazing he hasn't done that already.
I'm surprised that Tesla hasn't
Considering
done that.
all the bureaucracy he has to literally drill through in order to drill his tunnels, right?
Right.
That he just keeps going like one piece of paper at a time, one regulation at a time. So he knows that of which he speaks.
Right.
But he's making a point here that most people don't want to see, which is that social spending bills are a smokescreen for a way for the government to give their buddies money. Really, that's it. Like, there's a little up front that's for you. That's like the chocolate coating. But what's inside is not for us at all. It's only for the government to pick winners and losers, as it's clearly doing here with this regulation. Why not give Tesla the full credit? Why not give users or buyers the full credit that they would get for another electronic car than they give Tesla, if Tesla's the one who's been the pioneer of this industry anyway?
Yeah, but it's because they have non-union buildings. I mean, this is, talk about politics, right? I mean,
right.
So Tesla has been the innovator. They've really pushed the needle on this. They fought the uphill battle to the point where Elon was like sleeping in the Tesla factory to keep the lights on, to keep it going when they thought they were going to collapse, right? To the point where now they create 2/3 of all U.S. electric cars in the country. And the electric vehicle infrastructure for charging, right?
Right.
Largely, where he was building these basically for free at no charge to the states, right? To put these along the New Jersey Turnpike and other places like that, so that people could charge their cars. And then he doesn't get invited to the White House. And then because he's running a non-union shop, I'm pro-union, but because he's running a non-union shop, they get shut out of this legislation. It is picking winners and losers.
Absolutely, it is.
Let us know.
I was going to ask you a question.
Go ahead, ask me a question.
He's somebody they can't, grease his palm and keep him quiet. They want
Yes.
people that are going to be like, okay, we put out a vaccine mandate, you're going to do it, right? Even if the Supreme Court says not to. Yes, I'll do it. Okay, then you'll get your subsidies.
Right.
Yes. I mean, I guess the idea online where people are saying, easy for you to say, we need our child tax credit or whatever it is that, social stimulus that people feel that they need. That's understandable, but he is a large employer, right? He wants to employ people, and he's been shut down repeatedly in the pandemic. He had notoriously a big fight with Gavin Newsom to try and keep his factory opened. He's not someone who lacks empathy for keeping people employed. But he's saying the numbers here don't add up. And so when you're sort of kicking and screaming for your monthly government subsidy, the point I'm trying to make is when you cash that small amount of money, it creates a lot of money for the government and it makes your money worth less. So even if you feel like, oh, phew, I've got the $500 child tax credit, you can buy much less with it because it came from the government.
Right.
And it sucks. And I'm not saying I lack empathy for people who need it, but when you cash it, it's actually hurting you more because the government's not giving it to us in an honest way.
Well, and think about it like this, like just to kind of show, like based on what's happening right now. Let's say you got that $500 tax credit last year and you went to buy meat and it's like $2 a pound. You get the $500 this year, you go and it's like $9 a pound for meat. So because that money is going out, that's being printed out of nowhere, every time you get that money, prices are going to go up because that's what's creating this inflation.
Right, and that's what hurts the poor people and middle class the most is the cost of things. Inflation has helped, if anything, it has helped big businesses. It has made billionaires stronger. In fact, Elon Musk was even asked later in the interview about the taxing. He's like, look, you can zero out all of the billionaires, and that still won't do anything. It still won't do anything to cover the numbers. The numbers don't add up and don't make sense. Maybe what would make sense, though, is actually pulling back the amount of money that we spend on the military-industrial complex. And that's why I want to talk about our next story, because if the U.S. actually stops spending money massively that it does on the military-industrial complex, they could lower taxes dramatically. in the United States, making it a business-friendly environment. They could provide a social safety net that would take care of people, and we wouldn't have to worry and have people sleeping on under overpasses in California in tents. But now, here's the next tool in the military's tool belt. This story absolutely, I was so pissed last night when I discovered this. I was like so angry. This story made me so angry. America is about to be attacked by an army of low-cost drones that renders our current military at a massive disadvantage. We are in peril. We are in peril, according to these military experts, unless we right now ramp up our own drone army to stop this, guys. This is true. This is true. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. But thanks to NBC News, we've identified just such a company that can make sure we're all protected. What am I talking about? So we are now on the verge of being attacked by Kamikaze Drones. This is a new weapon that brings power and peril to the U.S. military.
Okay,
we have the power and the peril of the U.S. military.
Understand, this does not mean these drones are going to attack us here in the United States. We're talking about they're going to attack our people over where we shouldn't be in the first place.
Right, exactly.
Well, you don't know that. It could have attacked people here.
It could attack you in your living room.
Yeah, well, I don't want to.
This is coming for you right now.
I don't want to give too much credit to NBC News. The military invited them for a demonstration.
No, that's my point, right? Like the military called NBC News and invited us to go and watch a defense contractor shoot off drones in the desert. Let me get my really nice news stand-up here.
Why are they doing that? This is, I mean, come on.
Let me just tell you, like, let me just show you something.
You guys remember during Desert Storm when they used to have like the football players, like the Jets would sit there and spin in 3D models and be like, this is the F-16 Firecat.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what happened. I mean, so if you look at, I want to show you something on this news, just so you understand the news piece of this right now, which is when you do a stand-up in the news business, a stand-up is like, okay, we're going to go out and shoot a news package. I'm a newsman. I'm a news reporter. And you'll notice if you ever watch like a 2-minute news piece, like we're going to go now to Clayton Morris, who's down at where the riots are happening right now. Clayton, what can you tell us? And he'll do a little stand-up there with a microphone, and then he'll toss to a piece of video, right? He'll toss to a piece of video, and then it'll be something, and he'll be at a really dramatic moment. He's like, you can see these people behind me. That's a stand-up. Okay, he's doing a stand-up with a microphone, like stand-up comedy. These people behind me have been out here all morning, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, in order to do that, in this video piece with NBC News, they had to coordinate basically with the military industrial complex and the defense contractors to time this stand-up that you're about to see so that they could launch this drone right at the right television moment. I want you to watch this. So I hope I explained. Let me know if in the chat I didn't explain this well enough, but hopefully this will make sense. Watch.
Like that.
First look at new killer drone.
Are we supposed to hear it?
Oh yeah, I killed the audio earlier and then
How an operator.
Watch this again here. Okay, here we go.
Can find it and kill it and launch miles away.
Here's the stand-up. Watch.
Once a target is identified, the Switchblade can find it and kill it in minutes. Launching. AeroVironment, the drone's
like perfect, right? That's like perfectly coordinated. That's a perfectly coordinated stand-up from the U.S. military and with NBC News in cahoots. So the NBC then runs this whole piece about how, guess what, guys, and Grover's pissed about this too. We are at a moment right now where we are about to, we better prepare ourselves. We better build these drones because they are coming for us. And these terrorists are going to have their hands on these drones, and they're going to be attacking us with these drones. And they're going to get their hands on these. What? Yeah, in any other country. Like, they're just going to be bombing us indiscriminately now. But I always love these stories because, number one, we are the country that uses drones to kill other people. Like, at length, right? More than anybody else. But now we need to be worried about other countries sending little drones that are going to be dropping bombs all over the United States. So we need to now spend billions more to protect against a drone army. You mean to tell me all of the sophisticated equipment that we have, we just increased your military budget by $40 billion, $45 billion?
We have a space force, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. We just built a new army in space. And we were worried about these little DJI Mavic drones that are going to drop missiles on my grandmother's backyard. Like, this is the kind of crap that we have to deal with from the mainstream media. I mean, just look at this headline from NBC News. Kamikaze Drones, a new weapon, brings power and peril to the U.S. military. I want to play for you, though, a soundbite from this interview. Oh, Natalie had to step out for a second. Got a phone call. I think it might have been from our kid's school, so that's why she stepped out. But look at this interview they chose a military expert, probably a military defense contractor who used to be in the military and part of the military-industrial complex, who's now getting paid big time for this entire thing. Watch what he has to say about these drones and how in trouble we are if we don't stop these things right now.
Levels the playing field between the U.S. and terrorist groups or rebel groups in a way that's certainly not good for the United States.
Iranian-backed militias have used similar
Did you hear what
drones
he
to
just
attack
said?
American bases in
Yes.
Iraq and to target weapons like these. Change the
levels
game.
the playing
again.
field.
Levels the playing field between the U.S. and terrorist groups or rebel groups.
Yeah,
in a way
because
that's
these
certainly
little
not good for the
tiny
United
rebel
States.
groups with their
Right.
guns and stuff are the weapons that we left. It's balancing that power.
Exactly.
That is, oh my God.
At least it's cheaper, though.
Militias have used similar drones to attack American bases in Iraq and to target the Iraqi prime minister.
The U.S. is definitely vulnerable to drone attack today.
Yeah. We're absolutely, and look, they probably coordinated this. Like, they got this expert, NBC, like, with the help of the military. We got this expert. We are in trouble. We are vulnerable to drone attacks, guys.
How
Better be ready.
disingenuous is it, though, that they're making it sound like we're vulnerable here in the, like, they don't say that it's because we're over there. Like, we're the troops that are in the Middle East are the ones that are in danger, not us. If anyone.
Right, they're gonna. A drone has a 45-minute battery life. Like, just one of the brand new DG Mavic 3 drones has a 45-minute battery life. That's not flying across the Atlantic, by the way, and especially if it's carrying a missile on it.
They position the story as if it could happen. Like, people are going to be thinking, "Oh my gosh, they're going to drop drones here."
Yeah.
Key prime minister.
The U.S. is definitely vulnerable to drone attack today. We need better defenses, and we need them urgently for U.S. troops overseas.
And who can bring it? This company that we coordinated to do this interview with.
You wonder why people build a
presenting
bunker.
A new kind of risk, both abroad and at home. Ken Delanian, NBC News, Dugway Proving Ground, Utah.
Did
Thanks
you hear
to
what he said? Both abroad and at home. He ended that with.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying that it costs just $6,000 per one of these little doodads versus $150,000 for the Hellfire missile that we typically use now. So we're getting a bargain, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Bless you.
Well, maybe. What does it cost for the drone pilot to go out there and fire that off?
Right. Also, they say that they have a camera on it so that they can verify their target, because they said, oops, we didn't mean to kill civilians earlier this year with our missile attack. So now this one's got a camera. We'll make double sure before we implode it on somebody. But we think best practices are that it should go with an accompanying surveillance drone. So I don't know how much those are. But.
Florence in the chat says, does the company that owns NBC make the drones? I wouldn't be surprised. But when I saw this, I thought, my God. So now this is how the media scares you, right? A new weapon brings power and peril to the U.S. Our military is in trouble. I got an idea. How about you get the hell out of these countries? Where
Exactly.
like a little drone attack that's flying over top of you because you're in a country you shouldn't even be in. How's that for an idea? Then you won't have to worry about
like
these
walking
little
into
things.
somebody else's house and they put a gun in your face and you're like, hey, they've got a gun in my face and I'm in their house. I guess I need some kind of weapon to, take care of them. Like, it makes no sense.
So we got to watch out for kamikaze drones now. That's the new threat.
You guys, this story was written so that you feel safer. Do you feel safer?
Are you kidding me? You think that's why this story was written? I think this story was it's pure propaganda.
Yes, exactly. To make you feel like we need this in order to be safe.
Right. I know. That's what. I guess you're okay.
It's our next boogeyman.
Yes, we need this to feel safer. Like, if you're a soccer mom, like, this is the type of person who that George W. Bush won against John Kerry in 2004. Running, which is to say, like, we got into this war. You feel safer with me. I'm going to get us out of this war.
Totally.
I'm going to keep you safe. And you know what? We need to beef up our military. And I don't want these drones attacking your son's soccer game. Okay.
Me neither.
Vote for me. I'm George W. Bush, and I'll take care of you. All right.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell in a bit. But first, I want to tell you about our show sponsor over at IP Vanished. Do you feel like you're being followed around the internet?
Yes.
You probably are. Of
By
course, you
drones?
know.
By drones?
Not by drones, but by companies who know when you mention birth control and want to sell you birth control right away. Not that that's what I'm
Or you mention
discussing.
having a baby, and then you're targeted for ads from Target to buy diapers.
Exactly. So you know that kind of stuff happens, right? But you don't know completely who else is tracking you around the internet. So how about considering a VPN? Our new show sponsor, IP Vanish VPN, is here to help you take back your privacy and become as anonymous on the internet. A virtual private network, or VPN, is a tool that helps you browse the internet safely. You can use a VPN on any connected device, a computer, a tablet, a phone, even things like your media streaming device. And when you use an IPN, it takes the IP address that you're browsing from and it throws it over there, basically. So it looks like you're not browsing from here, you're there. And then what you're looking at is actually private, right? What you're reading, what you're searching, what you're watching, whatever it is you're doing, it's really no one's business but your own. And maybe your spouse's. I don't know.
Well, even like Arlene in the chat says, yeah, I know who's following me, my ex.
You don't want that.
Exactly.
Throw him off the scent, girl, with IP Vanish. Now, IP Vanish is offering an incredible 65% off of their annual plan, which is equal to 6 months free. IP Vanish is easy to use. You just turn it on and it runs in the back of your connected device while you're browsing the web. And if you do run into a problem, you can ask for 24/7 help at IP Vanish, because they help you whenever you get a little confused. Because I'm going to say a VPN is like, it's a boss move, but it's not a beginner move for internet people, internet users. So get one and you'll be part of the cool club who know that their privacy is not worth a premium. It should be a civil liberty. So go to
they
IP
should
Vanish.
change their slogan to "Get them off your scent, girl."
Yes. Get that guy off wash that guy right out of your hair. What was that? It was like some commercial. I don't remember.
Gonna wash that green right out.
Exactly. Wash those stalkers off of your connected device is super catchy slogan. I don't know why they didn't ask me. IPVanish.com/invest is where you should go when you want to claim your own privacy. If you go there right now, you can get a 65% savings. The annual plan right now is just $44.99 for the first year. This is an exclusive discount. So this is the time to sign on with this 65% discount. IPVanish is the best of the best. It's rated 4.7 out of 5 on Trustpilot with more than 6,000 reviews. So please remember to go to ipvanish.com/invest and get the deal and start protecting yourself online.
All right. Let's talk about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So if you've been following our show for any length of time, you know we've been following this trial because of the juicy tidbits that are coming out of this. What names would be named? What high-profile billionaires were down there on Epstein Island? Who was covering it up? Who in the government knew about this? So many intriguing angles on this story. Well, there is a conservative, I will say conservative. Now, we are equal opportunity offenders here on the show. We are neither conservative nor liberal. We are independent, and so we go after each willingly. There is a conservative meme, though, that's been floating around that the mainstream media is ignoring the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, that the media were all over the Kyle Rittenhouse story, but they can't be bothered to cover this story. Alex Jones over at InfoWars has devoted whole segments to lack of coverage around Ghislaine Maxwell. But I think in many ways this is all in an effort to drive clicks for these conservative media organizations, because he's missing the point. I went through archives of each major news network over the past 24 hours to look at the organization's coverage, and it's been exhaustive. It's been exhaustive. Just take a look at some of the instances of searches. Here's the front page of CNN. The front page of CNN with a whole section cut out with 4 stories devoted to the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. This is CNN, okay? And countless videos and interviews on CNN over the past week or longer and within the past few days. Here is Fox News. Look at that. Ghislaine 3 days ago, 6 days ago, 4 days ago, 1 hour ago, 3 hours ago, constantly updating on Fox News, right? This is quote unquote mainstream media coverage of these stories.
Is this just on their website, or they cut because you don't see it anything else that they want to get attention to? They're putting it on the shows. They're putting like Tucker's talking about it. It's going on their YouTube channel. It has more of a media push than this is getting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, videos and interviews on ABC News, live on television. What's that?
It's on the website though, isn't it? Is it actually on any shows?
Yeah, if you click on any of these stories, you'll end up going to videos from interviews from these shows with video embeds in them. And these are videos right here, and these are videos right here. Here's 20. Look at these interviews right here on. This is actually only which one is this? This is on CBS News, I think. Interview after interview after interview with the different accusers, former Epstein staffers, coverage of the trial, and so forth.
Okay, I'm not able to follow what your point is here. So you think that there are people who say that they're not covering Ghislaine Maxwell to protect their media darlings. Mm-hmm. And you're saying they're wrong. They are covering it.
Yeah. And I'm saying what's being missed here in all of this is that this is a federal trial, and the judge, you cannot have cameras inside the courtroom.
Right.
So there are no cameras allowed inside the courtroom. Here's the front page of NBC News. And they're covering yesterday's testimony inside the court. And yes, they only have sketches. So it's very easy for people to just make this jump to thinking that because there's sketches, there's no video, there's no Kyle Rittenhouse crying video, that it's somehow that it's nefarious. No, you're not allowed to have cameras in a federal courthouse. Totally different at a state, totally different situation. In fact, the reporters, conservative reporters who've been in the room say you can't bring cameras in here, and it's very difficult for us to do our jobs because we have phones and tablets that we're not allowed to bring into the courtroom. We have to leave them outside. We have to leave them outside in the bin. We can't even bring them inside the courtroom to do our reporting. We have to leave the room and go outside the body scanner to get our phone to then file reports. So just by virtue of the structure of it, it's painted differently, or it's.
I saw a slew of articles this morning about how what it's like to draw her as a cartoonist. One cartoon, like one of the artists, they're not a cartoon. They're not trying to make a caricature. Said she poses for me. I guess she's got nothing else to do while she poses. He says like she's been looking at me and posing. Like, oh, you're let me get my better side. So I don't know. That's what an artist say. Yes, but your point is well taken. Nobody can get in there. We can't verify that.
Yeah, and there's no video allowed. So you're
same
not
with the Jussie Smollett case.
Oh yeah, the Jussie Smollett. Yeah, well, talk about a juicy case. And there's been, I think, just equal. There's been, from what I've seen, there's been no shortage of coverage from Ghislaine Maxwell. And I know that these reporters wish that they actually had video in. I know that media organizations would love to have cameras inside this courtroom covering this trial.
But don't you feel like there's some kind of machine that pushes things out when they have an agenda? Do you know what I mean? It's like, because there's a difference. Like there's people cutting up and making short little videos like This Is Now or whatever, like all of these different things. And it's kind of like those are what get people, because they're putting those on TikTok, these short videos. They're putting them on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Stories, Instagram Reels or whatever. And that's how they're getting these stories like Rittenhouse and all that out more. And it's like they don't have that same push on this or the Jussie Smollett.
But who's this? The thing is like, but who's to blame here, right? Because if you just think about logistics for a second, right? Let's say like here's an update from the New York Times just came out just a few moments ago on the updates on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So and interviews inside. district judge denied a request by Maxwell's attorney. So all of these things, like allowing photos in, like release the sexual photos from the FBI agents that they found on the disc, the compact discs, like all these are being updated in the news. And from Reuters, U.S. News and World Report, from New York Times. This report actually came from the New York Times specifically. But let's just talk logistics for a second, right? To your point, David. So let's say I'm at the Kyle Rittenhouse, or the media has clips, right? Anybody, I could go on to PBS NewsHour website or whatever and grab a video of Kyle Rittenhouse crying or saying he didn't do this or he didn't do that, right? And I could clip it, and I could literally stick that little clip right up on a YouTube short or on TikTok, and I could make a funny video about it, and I could like put my face on it and be like, no, he didn't, he said what? Clip it and post it up. There's none of that. They're not allowed to bring phones in there. They're not allowed to bring cameras in there. They can't do any of that. And so then it really is incumbent upon like the main news journalists who are at the federal courthouse, they're covering this story, to come outside with their phone and do something like that, and they're not going to do that. They're going to file their 2-minute story for the nightly news or whatever. And it's just a different animal. It's not the OJ trial. Jury. What's that?
They could follow the jury home.
No, they cannot. They absolutely cannot do that.
No, but I mean to create a story.
But what are some of the updates on this trial? I mean, some of the juicier tidbits over the past few days is that they're now entering their 7th day today. So this is now the 7th day, and prosecutors were expected to show jurors photographs depicting some lurid photos with her and Jeffrey Epstein. They're like nude photos of the two of them, but the judge has said, no, you can't show those photos. There's a whole bunch of digital photos that are on this, like that the FBI seized, that they're not going to be allowed to show during this. So they're going to basically say that these photos, that they are relevant or they're not. It depends on the victims. Like, you don't get to show Ghislaine hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, but you do get to show photos of the victims with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And also the sketch artists say that she sketches on her own during the trial. So maybe she could sell those on eBay.
She's so bored. She's just like, you know what? I got this in the can. I'm just gonna sketch. I'm not even paying attention. I'm just bored.
Or maybe it's some kind of code to her, to the secret people who are patronizing their services. Like,
if you're a juror, though,
the abuser of this girl, you're coming next.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know though. If you're a juror and you're sitting there and you're watching serious testimony from these victims, and then you look over and you see Ghislaine like drawing birds, like just sketching stuff.
Well, some of the sketch art, I just sent it to you, has her actually drawing people, like sort of abstracts. I mean, who knows, right? What she's actually drawing, but I guess it does show a little bit of
secretly
disinterest.
Drawing the bad people, like.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like maybe that's code. Like, who abused that girl? You better watch your back. But that doesn't look like a girl worth that image.
There.
Yeah.
So it looks like she's drawing a Where's Waldo?
I can't interpret that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
All right. There you go.
Okay, let's talk about what's trending on the internet before we get you out of here. And we want to say that we appreciate you being a part of the show. Remember that what's trending is also in the newsletter, so you can prepare yourself. Make sure that you are subscribed. It's free, costs you nothing, gives you a smile, I hope. For instance, the lead image this morning was of the T-Rex over at the Natural History Museum wearing a Christmas sweater. Isn't that silly, you guys? Did that make you laugh?
It did.
Yeah. And you can buy a matching one in the gift shop.
I would like to wear an ugly Christmas sweater like that. We should do Ugly Christmas Sweater Day here on the show.
I'm for it.
Yeah. Ugly Christmas Sweater Day. What day should it be?
Right up on the holiday. Okay. We once went to an ugly Christmas sweater party and Clayton couldn't find his. So he put on Christmas pajamas that were monogrammed.
Yeah, I went in ugly Christmas pajamas.
You brought pajamas?
They're like, wow, you really... I'm like,
they were like Christmas pajamas too. See if you can find that while I do the trending, because that's a good picture.
Super relaxing though. I was like in my pajamas at a party. They don't have to dress up and worry about what you look like. I'm like, man, this is comfortable.
I bet I can find
I'm
that.
gonna go to sleep. Now you do what's trending. I'll find the photo.
Walmart in these.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Harry Potter reunion is trending because HBO Max released a teaser trailer for the New Year's Day special event to honor the 20th anniversary of the first movie. I'm not sure. Can we show any of it? Or even if I talk over it? I don't know. You search it out because I'm still not sure about
it. Yeah.
Yes. So it does not look like it's a plot-driven film. It is more of a reunion where they get together and talk about how funny it was when we lived here on the set. And my son and I watched it yesterday. That was Neville Longbottom. Yes, it was. And the person on the train was Mr. Weasley. And the woman walking. My son and I dissected this last night. We watched it several times. Yes. I am excited. I'm also excited because my daughter and I are just at the last chapter of the 6th book, Half-Blood Prince, where she actually knows who the Half-Blood Prince is. She did predict it. You're going to have to stop me when it gets to Potter stuff. I'll stop right there.
Yeah, stop right now.
Olivia is trending. This is something else my daughter likes. Olivia is trending because pop singer Olivia Rodrigo announced dates for a concert tour called the Sour Tour. She's taking these 3 other artists to open for her. I'm sorry to say I don't know who they are because I know nobody unless my daughter's.
I don't know who she is.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Good for you. I'm happy and healthy. You know that song?
Nope.
And she's also in High School Musical, the series on Disney Plus. My daughters really love her. My son likes him. My son does too. But specifically, like in High School Musical, she takes her keyboard and puts it on her bed and plays it and writes music. And my daughter does that too. It's super cute. I think she's a positive role model. I'm happy my daughter has something like that. So like I know it'd be cooler
Taylor
to say
Swift
that I'm
2.0.
super into her, but
Yeah.
what was that?
Taylor Swift 2.0.
Yeah, I'd say that. Sure. Okay. Jennifer Lawrence is trending because she hit the red carpet looking very pregnant and everyone was gushing about how lovely she looks with her
Who's she
baby
with?
bump. I don't know. My mom would
Okay,
know.
which one of you is responsible for that?
My mom would know. She would. It's hilarious. Like her mom, like
She's like, oh, Bradley Cooper, do you know he's sober? Oh, Jeremy Renner, do you know he's from here? My mom loves this kind of stuff.
I'm sorry.
Yes, this is what a pregnant woman looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yes, she does look beautiful. She does look swollen in the appropriate parts. I'm going to say that. So I don't hate her. I'm not going to hate on her because as someone who has felt very pregnant in my life, you don't want to see other people do it beautifully. So yeah, I like it. It's beautiful and I'm happy for her.
Her man's name is Cook Maroney. He's a director.
Cook Maroney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a police officer. You guys go down there and get Cook Maroney up here.
This is your dad, Cook Maroney, see?
Let's go down and get Cook Maroney.
All right. And finally, Google Doodle is trending because the homepage of Google yesterday honored the history of pizza on Monday. And people were like, yeah, what is the history of pizza? It was an interactive doodle that lets you slice up virtual pieces and then see everybody take a slice. Isn't that cute?
Oh, hey, pizza, come here on the internet.
It specifically was yesterday because this was the day in 2017 when UNESCO honored the culinary art of Neapolitan pizzaiolo. Because yes, pizza was created in Naples for the Queen Margherita, and that's why we have the Margherita pizza.
We went to the original place in Naples.
Yes, that made that pizza that specifically used to send it to that queen. And it tastes like, oh my God, the bread is like pillows. Yeah, that's my daughter and son in that actual pizzeria in Naples.
So this is the original place that invented the margarita pizza. It's off the charts delicious.
I mean, look what's on there. So, we're a family of 5, but at the time our youngest was 1. And so we're like, well, we'll get these 2. And they were like, no, you're 5 pizzas, 5 people, you get 5 pizzas. And you're like, I was like, you expect the baby to eat a full pizza?
Yeah, she was this, that's
like
how old she was.
You're going to give her a big pizza and they're like, yes, that baby gets a pizza. They were so mean about it. So I had to eat it for her.
Well, they live at the base of Mount Vesuvius, so that's why they're pissed all the time. They're like, we never know when that's going to blow.
All right,
Talk about
that's
living in
it.
fear.
Yeah. Although I am for the 1 pizza per person thing. What about you, David and pizza? 1 per?
It depends.
Like the specifically the Neapolitan one or the Naples pizza.
Bad.
Like, see how big they are? You can eat that by yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just
Easily.
fold it in half and eat it like a calzone.
Yes. So if you can't put that down, folks, you don't belong here. You got to eat your own pizza.
Pizza is
No
one of those
wimps.
things that I literally will, like, it's one of the few foods that I will eat till I'm like I hurt.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not condoning that.
No, I don't condone it either. That's why I don't get pizza very often.
Look how little she was. Oh my gosh.
Look at Miles.
I know. They're so teeny. That's the real stuff, dudes.
Yeah, the original.
That's
place.
very exciting.
All right, everyone. Make sure you check out if you're interested in learning how to invest and you're interested in cryptocurrency, you're interested in being smarter with your money. We have a free boot camp. David, maybe you can pull this URL up on your screen. It's a 90-day free financial freedom boot camp. No, it should be boot. Well, anyway, if you just go to morninginvest.com/bootcamp, just go to morninginvest.com/bootcamp. That should take you right there. It should. Let me just make sure. Let me know if everyone in the chat, can you guys check this URL?
What is this one that I got up on the screen?
Yes, or bootcamp.morninginvest.com also.
Okay, yeah. On everyone in the chat, go here and see if we can crash the website and piss off my IT guy. morninginvest.com/bootcamp. See if it crashed. Did it crash? Yes, it worked. And it's totally free. It's a 90-day financial empowerment boot camp. Again, it's free. We put a lot of hard work into this. You can get your free download. It'll take you through week by week by week. We put a lot of hard work into helping you figure out building your financial education, and taking you from zero to, what would you say? Zero to hero. Zero to being able to start investing.
Zero to infinity, from here to infinity and beyond.
Yeah.
It is specifically written to help you and your family create financial freedom in whatever that looks like for you. You do a dream and then you plan for that dream. And yes, we really would love it if you take a look and go through this with your family, because the stories we cover on this show should be harbinger of things to come, because it's just really hard to trust the currency and the government we've got right now. So be in control of your own finances, your own wealth, and your own life.
Exactly. So go grab it.
And your own dog. What is up with him?
I don't know. Someone's ringing the doorbell, So someone's
knocking at the door.
Okay, well, I want to wish my father a happy birthday. His birthday is Pearl Harbor Day. And, oh, yeah?
Oh, happy birthday, Philip.
Fantastic. Happy birthday to the both of them. And also, I want to wish my son good luck. My son has his first cello orchestra tonight, and that's what's exciting in my life.
Yeah, we're going to winter concert. So we're going to see
like
that.
we actually can do it, you guys. The fact that they're going forward to have a concert when there has been none for 2 years. We're very excited. If there are festivities like that in your neck of the woods, I hope you enjoy them while we have them. The pandemic at the very least has pointed out what a privilege it is to gather and hear live music.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to bring. What I'm going to bring to the concert tonight? COVID.
What?
Just to
what are you talking about? Don't say that. They're going to disinvite us.
Just feeling a little warm. I'm going to bring a little COVID to the Christmas concert.
You better not. They made us rapid tests too. We have to rapid test before we go. Yeah.
We do? Jeez.
Yep.
Well,
I'm going to be getting that up your nose, dude.
I'm vaxxed. I'm
recovered.
I've recovered. I'm naturally immune. And is there anything else I am now with this? Awesome.
Hey, you're
You've been snipped?
No, I don't know.
What else do you want to do? You said that before on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're checking for that though, right?
I hope so.
No rapid test. Could you make it a little bit more rapid, please?
Yeah. Hope Mrs. Owens is doing that check. That was my third grade crush. My third grade teacher crush, Mrs. Owens.
All right, everybody.
I saw her like 15 years later, and she held up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear
it was
that.
like a third grade crush. I was like Mrs. Owens, and then you see her like 15 years later, and she had a bunch of.
That's like Michelle Pfeiffer.
I'm glad she met the pleasure of your gaze.
She didn't wait for me. I was disappointed she didn't wait for me. Anyway.
Maybe she didn't want to go to jail.
Silly. silly.
But that's like Michelle Pfeiffer. I think Michelle Pfeiffer keeps getting prettier and prettier. The older
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, there's a super chat to me. Lisa Pettit says, "What can you please? Do you have super chats, David?
Yes.
I forgot to ask. Thank you for the reminder, Lisa."
Francis says, that's not funny, Clayton. I know. I'm not going to bring COVID to the Christmas concert.
Well, you haven't been tested yet. You don't.
That's true. It's true. I saw someone today, a scientist saying, we are very close to basically calling Omicron a version of the cold.
Omicron.
But we don't have enough data yet out of South Africa. We're still waiting on some of it. But basically, yeah, it's like having a cold. So.
Okay, super chats, quite a few. Lisa Pettit, Natalie, I so appreciate your diverse opinions. Keep doing you. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad I asked for that. Made my day. Thank you for saying that. What's that?
Sorry, Joe Biden just jumped in there. I don't know what that was about.
Thank you very much for the compliment.
Yes.
And then Cryptologija, we already answered that one. Is there a public Zoom meeting link?
Yes.
No, there's not that we know of. Tanya Hunkin-Mara, thank you. And then we already read this one from Cryptologia again. Dandy, will Neo be delisted?
Neo
be delisted.
I'm not sure if that's Neo from The Matrix, maybe.
That's where my mind went.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know.
Vandy, if you could elaborate in the chat if you're still here. JC Carla Moreau, bring the jobs back, then we will have revenue.
Yeah.
And then Chris's Top Level Media, I fly on a regular basis. I fly for real estate. Also have my 107. I have the DJI Mavic S2 and have flown the Mavic 3. Check out my stuff. You'll see. And that is it.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you so much for your super chats. We really appreciate it. We will see you here tomorrow. Thank you for joining. And be sure that you read up in the newsletter. If you enjoy it, I hope you do. We write it for you to enjoy.
That's right. Exactly.
I enjoy it.
Much love to all of you guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow, bright and early, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And don't forget to check out my other YouTube channel, youtube.com/Clayton Morris, where I cover crypto and investing. Go over there, check that out. We have videos daily now over there, Crypto News Daily. So check that out. There you go. youtube.com/Clayton Morris. All right, everyone. We will see you bright and early tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Peace.